Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene Flash Update, January 12, 2026, time in Texas, about 2 p.m. So I'll give you a short update about what's going on around the world, and we wonder if the U.S. Post Office warning to its employees last Thursday night, be sure you carry your ID in case you're stopped by law enforcement, is a warning about an upcoming lockdown in the U.S. when the U.S. militarily engages Mexico. So that's going on. So let's get started. I have a short report about space weather. So January 10, we did have a CME, where two CMEs combined. It's called cannibal CMEs, that gave us a G2 geomagnetic storm January 10. This is January 12, and it's believed a low-level G1 geomagnetic storm continues from that January 10 event. Now we have today an M-class flare 3.3 that came off the sun and produced a CME. We would expect the impacts of that CME to come later, January 13 or 14. And we know when we have geomagnetic storms that we have communications impacted on Earth. This is going on in the economy. We have China continuing to try to destroy the U.S. economy. And in Shanghai this morning, silver went to $92 plus per ounce. China has stopped January 10 exporting physical silver from China, which constitutes 60% of all physical silver in the world. So people in the U.S. who've bought silver are left in the position of only holding paper, and it's unlikely they will ever receive their physical silver, which primarily comes from China. China, it's believed, is holding physical silver now and allocating it not for the silver dealers in China, but for the use by the Chinese military. So that's going on. And we have gold going up to $4,500 per ounce this morning. And we had on Friday President Trump putting forth through the DOJ a criminal investigation into Jerome Powell, head of the U.S. Fed, for some testimony he gave recently in Congress about the cost of a new building by the Fed. It was revealed that that cost factor exceeded what was publicly being put out by billions of dollars. The question to Powell was, what's up with this? Friday, because Powell refuses to lower interest rate, per the request of President Trump, is now under criminal investigation. So that's going on. And we have this from BPEARTHWATCH. Yeah, we have something going on in space. We know with the International Space Station, we've heard one of the astronauts became ill. They were bringing them all home from the International Space Station. They were going to leave one American and two Russians on it. I submit most likely all of the astronauts are going to be coming down back to Earth from the International Space Station, which has apparently, it is aging, but I submit that there have been hits on the International Space System from what's going on in space. We know Atlas is still out there broadcasting radio signals, and we, the people in America and around the world, are not being told by our governments exactly what's going on. Now, Elon Musk will put a deorbiting type device into space to bring down the International Space System. It's being put forth by 2030. It's my thinking that this will be occurring much sooner rather than later. And it's being put forth, then the U.S. will put the money they had been paying out for the International Space System toward the U.S. building bases on the moon and Mars. I submit this. And millions of Americans and other people around the world know that the U.S. military and other militaries and governments have had bases on both the moon and Mars since about the 1960s. So that's going on. And we have this. Well, we have intel this morning that Mexican troops are bordering along the border of Mexico with the U.S., and I will say this. I live on the border. I live close to the coastline of Texas with the Gulf of America, and beginning last night, I heard planes flying over. That continues until today. So this intel is that Mexico, per the president of Mexico, Sheinbaum, has ordered the Mexican military to defend not the nation of Mexico, but the cartels. And intel reports Mexican troops are massing along the U.S. border, and the Mexican military is putting armored vehicles in Mexico City. It's believed that Mexico preps to engage in a military exchange with the U.S., as the U.S. will hit Mexican cartels. The Mexican military has been ordered to defend the cartels. And we know that during the Commie Dem JB regime, that it's new information is coming out that the Mexican cartels put inside the U.S. cartel militias, it's believed to number 22 million. And who is it who's juicing up all these protesters against the federal government, ICE, and so on? It's the same Dem commie group, with money being put forth by Soros and other international nations who are trying to destroy America from within. So way to go, President Trump. We do need to begin to hit physically, militarily back against our enemies. We have this from Real Raw News, that in Venezuela, there's a militia group about 3,000 strong, led by a former Venezuelan military colonel, Marcial Orantes. The name of this group is Frente. And this group on Friday took over a Venezuelan television station, killed the anchor, and began to make public announcements about this Venezuela militia group putting out bounties on American citizens living in Caracas. It's believed there are 16,000 American citizens there, and the bounty amounts are between $2,500 and $10,000 per individual killed. That includes American citizens, any U.S. military still in Venezuela, and all of the U.S. CIA individuals still in Venezuela. With Iran, we have now multiple reports from both U.S. media plus Euronews and BBC stating that the number of Venezuelan citizens shot down in its streets by the Iranian military is 2,000 up to 10,000, and that Iranian citizens are being called to ID the bodies, but the Iranian government refuses to release the bodies for burial. That's because my thinking is because once the people in other areas of Iran would see the number of funerals taking place by allegedly killed by the Iranian military, that it would set off much more vigorous and larger protests across Iran. So the families are being denied the bodies of their loved ones. And we have this, that over the weekend, the leader of Iran, the Ayatollah, or possibly the President Pogoshian, made a call to President Trump to seek some type of resolution. So that's going on. It's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.